So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Meg Stanton. I'm the Director of Operations for Friends of Kafika House. Friends of Kafika House is a US-based 501c3 nonprofit organization that was founded in 2020 to raise funds in support of the mission of Kafika House. And Kafika House was originally the Plaster House. It began in 2008. It provides a loving home for children receiving pre- and post-operative care and rehabilitation for a surgically correctable disability. Kafika House treats cleft lip and palate, skeletal fibrosis, club foot, burn scar contractures, and more. And currently, Kafika House has 2 facilities in Tanzania, East Africa. And now we're going to share a short 3-minute video about Kafika House so you can have a little glimpse into Kafika House.
Hi, my name's Sarah Raymond. I am the founder and director. The Plaster House started in 2008 as a home for children with disabilities to stay before and after they have corrective surgery at one of our partner hospitals in Arusha. It is home to up to 150 children who are waiting to have corrective surgery or who are recovering and rehabilitating following elective surgery. The rehabilitative surgery program provides a subsidized surgical program for children with disabilities from all over Tanzania. The main conditions that we treat are osteoporosis, clubfoot, burn scar contractures, cleft lip and palate, hydrocephalus and spina bifida, and osteomyelitis. We have solar electricity, we have access to water through our own borehole, we have a biogas plant that processes all of our septic, and we cook on the gas in the kitchen. We have our own vegetable garden and chickens to produce eggs. Most of these children stay with us without their parents. Mothers only stay with their children if the child is still breastfeeding or if the child's situation is precarious. Otherwise, we have house mothers who look after the children together with the rest of the team. A home away from home for these children while they're having medical treatment for their disabilities. Generally, rehabilitation is play. Children love to play together. They play when they're sitting in their beds with plaster casts on their legs. They play in the activity centre. They do arts and crafts together. And as part of their rehabilitation, they love to play football. We are passionate about the work we do with children with disabilities. Our whole team is committed to our vision that there should be no child with a treatable disability living in Tanzania.
is Megan DeGrave, and I am one of the founding board members of Friends of Kafika House. I first visited Kafika House in 2019, which was the first year that there was a parent guardian immersion trip. I brought one of my two children at that time, and I felt completely in love with Kafika House, and wanted to get involved. It's become a really big part of my life and of my family's life. I brought my son back as a participant. We were participants again in the 2021 immersion trip. And that's actually where I first met Sydney. She was on the trip that summer as well. It's a really amazing program. I'm sure you've heard bits and pieces from different people along the way, but it is really, really unique and remarkable. We Friends of Kafika House offer it for a couple of different reasons. I mean, first and foremost, it's to give you as participants an incredible experience shared between teen and parent, or teen and guardian. There's really nothing more extraordinary than sharing this with each other. And I think it's really unique for that reason, because there aren't that many programs where you can do this kind of work together far away. And to be of service to Kafika House. I mean, really, there's so many ways that you can lend a helping hand while you're there. And there's something for everybody, and everything that you can offer is so valuable and so meaningful to the staff, and and ultimately to the kids at Kafika House. So that's the other reason. But in full disclosure, we also offer this because we would love to grow the team of people who care about Kafika House. So our hope is that when you go, you'll fall in love with it just like I did. And as so many others, including our panelists today, have had an incredible experience and now want to be a part of the team that supports Kafika House from afar. So those are the main reasons we offer the program. And we're, for those of you who are on the call right now who have signed up, I'm so excited for you. And hopefully this session today is helpful. We've got a few questions that we can ask to the panelists, but it's an open floor, so please ask any burning questions that you have. It's a great team here to give you all kinds of insight. So with that, Sydney, Max, Jolene, I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Like Megan mentioned, my name is Sydney. I first went to Kafika House in 2021 on the same trip as Megan with my mom as a participant, and had an incredible time. I loved every minute of it and just couldn't stop thinking about it since I got back, and stayed involved, and kind of through the years stayed in touch with Gail and other people that were involved, and had the opportunity to go back in 2023 last summer to lead the immersion trip as the Kafika House liaison. So I was there for most of the summer, spent about a month at Kafika House before the immersion trip came, and really got to know more about the organization and the kids that were there, and then got to lead the group, which was a really special time.
Hi, I'm Max, for those of you who don't know me. I, similarly to Sydney, went on a trip in 2023 with my mom, Jolene, or maybe it was 2022. It might have been 2022. But really was just super impacted by the experiences I had with the children at the Kafika House, and just kind of how powerful just the work that the Kafika House, then the Placer House, um, was doing, and the impact it was making on not only the kids' lives but also my life. And then this upcoming summer, 2025, I will be the trip liaison like Sydney did. So yeah.
Thanks, Max. My name is Jolene Romney. I'm Max's mom, and we went on the Kafika House trip in 2022 was the year. And I have known about the Kafika House, I think, since the beginning. I'm quite good friends with Christine Hodgson, who was one of the first folks to try out this immersion program through the Kafika House. And so I've been hearing about it for years and actually had a chance to take Max. And as a parent, I found it just remarkable to watch your kids participate in the service that they're exposed to being volunteers at the Kafika House. And I also loved having that intense experience with my own kid. It was really special. Max has had a lot of cool experiences in his life, but to be able to do it with him was really special for me. So that's what I would say about our time at the Kafika House.
Thank you. So, Meg, actually, is your music?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I thought it might be helpful if you talked a little bit about, because both Sydney and Max have mentioned the liaison role.
Sure.
So there's the liaison role, and then there's EDU Africa. Would you mind talking a little bit about the role of both organizations, Friends of Kafika House and EDU Africa?
Sure. Yeah, so Kafika House and Friends of Kafika House partner with EDU Africa. They're a company that facilitates and develops educational travel programs for students, adults, everyone in Africa. So EDU Africa is on the ground. They support all of the travel logistics. They get us to and from. They're kind of like our cultural guides throughout the program. And then the liaison is generally a past participant of the program who comes back to be kind of the middleman between the three organizations. So they'll work with EDU Africa, they'll work with everyone at Kafika House to make sure that everyone is kind of settled with appropriate activities, and then they'll work with you as the trip participants to make sure that you're comfortable and have everything you need to. And we just find it's a really helpful position. I actually got to be the trip liaison last year, and I can see how it is so important because there's some things that you might not necessarily feel comfortable going to others to ask or suggest. So it's kind of fun to have this liaison on board for the entire trip.
Sydney, Max, Jolene, any of you can feel free to take this question, but would one of you tell everyone a little bit about the typical day? What does a typical day when you're on the trip as a participant look
Sure. I'll go for this one. So typical day starts, you wake up at not like a ridiculously early hour, but like 8 or 9, I believe. And you'll take the bus to the Kafika House. So my trip was in Arusha, so it was about a probably 30-minute bus ride. The bus is provided by EDU Africa. You take the bus to the Kafika House, and you'll spend the mornings there. And so we spent the morning there either working with the kids who were bedridden, or a lot of times I'd play soccer with some of the more mobile kids, and just kind of doing whatever the house mamas need or whatever the task for that day looks like. And then at noon or sometime around noon, afternoon, there will be lunch, which some participants will help make. And then we eat lunch with the kids. And then we will leave the Kafika House after lunch for the day. And generally, we will go do some kind of cultural experience that EDU Africa has provided, whether that is going and exploring like a lake. We went kayaking one day, I remember, or we do a lot of like cultural meals, or we do I remember we did some traditional dancing one night, which was fun. And then after that, you go back to the hotel, and usually are pretty tired for the night. And yeah, it's a typical day. think.
What are some, Sydney, this one might be a good question for you because you've been both the liaison and the participant. What are some of the tasks that you had as a trip participant at Kafika House? What are the ways that you volunteered or were of service while you were there?
Yeah, happy to take this. I think there's a little bit of everything. Sometimes people would go into the rooms, like Max mentioned, with the bedridden kids and be playing games. They loved Connect Four, working on puzzles or things like that, which was really special. And just like those moments of play, just as that video that we watched talked about, mean so much to them and just like make them really happy and that engagement. And it totally goes both ways too. So lots of games, activities like that. We spent a lot of time in the classroom too, doing things like arts and crafts with those kids, or outside kicking a ball, dancing, singing. We got really into dance circles the summer that I was there, and like started every day with the kids would pick a song and everyone would dance around and like start the day that way, which was pretty cute. And I also we got people involved in the clinic, so people would be watching the club foot clinic or maybe some of the like nutrition stuff that was happening or going around and watching rounds. And the team there is really great at what they do. So it's super cool to watch that happening and to be involved and just learn about everything that's going on. Other things would be helping out in the garden and seeing like the fruits and veggies that were being grown and like helping pick that, and then going into the kitchen and helping to prepare lunch. Um, yeah, kind of trying to get people in each realm of the plaster house. So there's a lot of like kid facing activities, like working directly with with the kids, but there's also things going on behind the scenes, as I mentioned, in the garden, in the kitchen. Sometimes people would work on like painting chairs or sanding tables, and that all goes a long way. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else that was a participant has anything else to share on that.
I can add that so when I went, my son was 16, and before we left, he said, "I just want to do the stuff that's behind the scenes, like you know, put me in the office. I don't want to be with the kids. I'm nervous about being with the kids." And we got there, and I think he spent the first day helping to repair crutches and wheelchairs. He was helping one of the staff members to do that. And then before you knew it, there were kids like on his lap, like crawling. He wasn't expecting it. And within 24 hours, he had like melted entirely. The kids just really got into his heart and quickly. And so sometimes you might go thinking you're going to do one kind of activity and end up doing totally different. But there's so many options, which is really great. And you can also change it up each day, can be different if you'd like.
Yeah, can I add one thing on that, Megan?
Yeah.
I know the summer that I was there as the liaison, we actually created a schedule and like worked to rotate people through each position too. So you really do get the opportunity to see it all and understand what's happening. And a lot of people maybe thought they really wanted to do something, and when they had their day and kind of the other area, really enjoyed doing that too. And it's great to be involved with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like doing a lot of different things really helps you understand how the organization functions too. What it really takes to take care of these kids and have this fantastic nonprofit in the middle of Tanzania.
How did you all feel that the work that you did at Kafika House contributed to the well-being of the kids or to the organization? How did you feel like it was meaningful work? And if so, can say a little bit more about that?
I have a story that I kind of like to tell people about relating to that actually. So I went with one of my good friends from here. His name is Beckett Johnson. And we went together and we spent a lot of time. We focused more on like the play aspect of what was going on and just having fun with the kids. And like they all are such like joyful and like happy kids all the time. And me and my friend Beckett had this one little girl, and I can't remember her name unfortunately, but every time we showed up, she'd always come and she'd run and give us like a big hug. And she like, she's hanging on your arm, and she'd always say things like, I think it was me bebe or something like that, which means like pick me up in Swahili. Um, and I don't know, I guess I kind of just thought she was like a kid who needed a lot of like physical touch and like a lot of attention like that way. And then on the second to last day at the house, I remember Jimmy, our EDU Africa representative, like came up to me and Beckett, and he was like, "Do you guys know why she's always doing this?" Like, we didn't really understand. And he said, like, these kids are kind of ostracized from their communities for these preventable disabilities that you just don't see in the US. They don't have a chance to just play because they have club foot, and they can't just go play soccer, or they don't make friends because they look different because of their fluorosis or their cleft lip or cleft palate. And like, this is the first chance they have to really just be kids, and like have that joy that you have when you don't have anything else going on in your life other than just like having fun and going to school. And that's really like their first chance to do that. And like being able to give that, even though that's not what I mean, I didn't realize I was doing that for the first 2 weeks of the trip. It like just still is just like such like an impactful moment. And that's like a overused cliche word, but it's just amazing that that's like something that I could do for somebody else, and for so many of those kids. So, yeah. Yes, I do think what we were doing was impactful, to answer your question.
Does anybody else want to say more about that too?
Yeah, I can go off of that a little bit. I think just the joy that's visible in everyone at Kafika House's face and daily like actions. It was just, we would show up every day and all the kids would be lined up at the gate, ready to play and see everyone and waving and singing. And I think that's really how you can feel the effort and the impact, is the joy and the happiness. And these kids are running around more than any kids in casts and on crutches that I've ever seen. And they just have so much energy, and they're so happy and joyful, and it's just contagious. You can feel it everywhere, and that's really special.
I think too, just to add to what you both already said, which I totally agree with, there's an amazing team, staff at Kafika House. There's clinicians and there's house mamas and, and a whole crew of other positions. And the house mamas are, primarily responsible with taking care of the kids in the classroom. There's teachers as well, in the classroom and in the rooms if they're bedbound, and in the play areas, for those that are more mobile. And they're required for all of their care, and they're really amazing at what they do, and they really, really, really value extra hands on deck. It's so the help is, as Sydney and Max have already talked about, the kids love it. They just like soak up the attention and the love, and they give it right back to you. But it's really, really helpful for the team on the ground as well, because they want to be doing that too, but they just, they've got a lot of tasks that they're responsible for. So it's really, really valuable to them as well. And to add that, okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We can go back to any of this because we can do questions at the end as well that anybody has. But just switching gears to the afternoons after volunteering at Kafika House. There's lots of adventures built into the itinerary. Wondering if you all have any favorites that you want to talk about.
I guess I could, oh, sorry, Sydney, you want to?
No, go for it.
Okay. I think I already partially mentioned this, but I'm not a dancer at all. It's something that makes me like pretty uncomfortable. But one evening we went to a restaurant kind of outside of Arusha. It was probably I don't know, it might have been half an hour outside of Arusha. And we were there for the evening, and we had dinner, and we were watching like the sun set over this like beautiful Tanzanian landscape, and we were like learning how to do some traditional, I think it was Maasai dance. and that was really cool because that's just obviously growing up in Montana, not something that I've ever experienced before. And it was just like a really awesome way to get myself out of my shell and experience a whole new culture and try Tanzanian dance, which is not something I thought I'd ever check off my bucket list. But I guess I have. It's just like a lot of stuff like that where you can learn and open yourself up to, or I open myself up to this culture that is just so different from my own. And I was just able to learn a lot through like things like that, I guess.
Yeah, we had dancing and drumming involved in our trip as well, which was a big hit. Super fun. And on the year that I was the liaison, my little brother was actually a participant. He came with my mom, and I wasn't really in the role of like a parent necessarily, but watching my little brother kind of go through these activities and soak it all in was really cool too. But I was thinking a favorite activity of mine is that we developed kind of a marketplace challenge, and there's these beautiful kind of sprawling markets all over Arusha, which is where I was. And kind of always felt a little daunting to go in and explore, but we made a checklist of things that we wanted people to go in and find or experiences that we wanted them to have. And then everyone kind of paired up into teams with like 5 key Swahili words that they were going to need. And we set them loose in the market, and everyone had to kind of collect their things and make their purchases. And it was a really cool way to get people involved and immersed in the culture there. And I just thought that was super valuable and interesting. And there's also some gorgeous nature in Arusha and in the surrounding area. The waterfall hike has been a classic. So I really enjoyed that and just getting outside. And like Max, I'm also from Montana, so that's something that I enjoy doing. And even if people weren't big hikers or outdoor enthusiasts, it's just this like striking, stunning landscape. And really great to get out and see that and kind of have the balance of having really meaningful service in the morning and through the day, and then getting to get out and learn more about the culture and be immersed in it in the afternoon too.
Great. Thank you. So there's about approximately, I'm just doing this in, broad sweeps, but there's approximately a week of volunteering, and then a weekend, and then another week when you're back at Kafika House, because it's easiest for the staff when the volunteering is done on the weekdays. So there's a long weekend built in between the 2 primary weeks of volunteering. And it enables the group to get away outside of Karatu or outside of Arusha, whichever area you're in for your trip, and have a really unique experience that's very different from what you had been doing during the week. I don't want to give too much away, but Sydney, Max, Jolene, do any of you want to talk about what that weekend is like, and how it's different from the rest of the time that you're in Tanzania?
I thought that weekend was a really cool time to get outside of Arusha where we had been and just experience a whole nother part of the country. We were at this resort called a Mini Life, and it was just kind of in the middle of like vast open Tanzanian land. I can't even really describe it. And very involved with the Maasai culture too. And we stayed in these like very beautiful kind of mud huts, but not really. They're like, it's the coolest place I've ever stayed. I don't think that does it justice. It's incredible. And it was just like a very rejuvenating weekend to spend time with the group of immersion trip participants. I think we all really bonded during that time. We went on bike rides and like walked along the roads and saw giraffes walking by, and just had like a lot of really great talks too. And it's a really important time for reflection and thinking back on that first week that you've had going into the next week, and what you're excited to go back and do, and maybe what you want to do differently. I thought that was all really great. And as I mentioned, the Maasai culture and just getting to experience something totally different was a really great aspect of that weekend. I don't think I'm doing it justice. It's really hard to put into words, but it was kind of an unexpected surprise and really a highlight of the trip.
And I can talk a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. I can talk a little bit about the weekend trip for the Karatu crew, since we have a few of you on tonight. So for the weekend trip in Karatu, we go to this beautiful, really nice, tented lodge on Lake Ayasi, which is just this massive lake. And we do the same type of thing, some activities, a lot of reflection, just really, really beautiful landscape. But we also got to spend a day hunting with the Hadzabe tribe. They're one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies in the world. They speak through a kind of clucking type of language, so interesting. A lot different from the Maasai culture that I had already gotten to know in Tanzania. So that was really fun, and a little exhausting. So there's a full day of rest after that, but really, really cool weekend experience.
Meg, I'm just going to interject really quickly. I think regardless of which weekend experience you're on, as we've both mentioned, there's a super crucial cultural aspect of it and kind of getting to learn about the indigenous tribes to Tanzania. And you just get so much insight into the background where a lot of the kids that are being treated at Kafika House come from, and just like what it looks like where they're living and just the culture and everything that surrounds that. And so coming back for week 2 and knowing just a little bit more about Maasai and Maasai life was really valuable.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a good way to, that's the perfect context, Sydney. Max, did you have anything you wanted to add? You had your mute off for a second.
I was just gonna kind of, I think I went on the same trip as Sydney, so I was just gonna go, or the same weekend trip as Sydney. So I was just gonna say a lot of the same things that she did. It's a nice, you reset a little bit. It's a cool way to experience um, just cultures that are so different from your own and learn a little bit more about right where the kids are coming from. Just kind of echoing a lot of what Sydney was gonna say. But
The Amini, which is the place that I've been to, that both Max and Sydney are mentioning, I think it is my most favorite place in the whole world. It is so different from anywhere that I've ever been, both the experience of it, but also like the aesthetics of it. It's hard to put words to it. And I really hope to have the chance to go to the one outside of Karatu as well someday. So,
Yeah.
so overall, I know this is a hard question because there's so many aspects of the trip that are life-changing and incredible beyond words. But did you have a favorite part about the trip? Something you loved the most, or something that you think about and hold the most dear? Is that too hard of a question?
I guess I kind of already shared mine a little bit. I just like the most impactful moment for me was that moment talking to Jimmy about like the kids and like what their lives are like and how I mean it really is life-changing work that the Kafika House is doing and that you get to contribute to on the immersion trip. And I think just for me, as fun as it was going to the weekend trip, like going on the weekend trip and getting a few days to relax and experience all that, I was ready to I was sad to leave the Kafika House and like not get to, go get a hug every time I show up to the house and not get to like play with the kids every day. Like that was my favorite part. I mean, everything else, the EDU Africa stuff, it was all amazing, but the best part for me was just getting to be with the kids every time. Yeah.
So is there anything that you all would want people who are considering going, or people who are planning on going but haven't yet been on the trip? Is there anything else that you think that they would want to hear or should hear at this point in time? Anything that we've missed?
I don't think so. I think we've done a good job kind of talking about the whole experience. I think something that maybe us participants haven't addressed as much is the experience that you do have like with your parent. Just going home every day and sharing a room with my mom and sitting there and talking about the kids and the different things that we had done that day and what stood out to us. We weren't always together. Maybe we'd like gone off and done different activities or worked with different kids. And so that reflection time, and even still, like a picture will pop up and we'll be like, oh, do you remember that moment? Do you remember this kid? Do you remember like that aspect of being at the Kafika house together? And it's really special. And I think that is something important to consider. As you've mentioned, there aren't a ton of trips or opportunities that you get to go do this with your kid, or for a kid to be with their parent in that way. So that's really unique and special and meaningful.
Well, Meg, I'll let you share how to get in touch with you if anybody has any
Sure.
other questions.
Yeah, so friendsofkafikahouse.org is our website. You can find the immersion trip in the volunteer section. You can always email me, Meg, at friendsofkafikahouse.org. Happy to answer any questions. For those participating in the trip, we will do kind of an orientation pre-trip Zoom call as we get a little bit closer and we start sharing packing lists and all those good things. So there will be plenty of opportunities to sort out those details. But yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. And Jolene, Max, and Sydney, thank you so much for sharing. It's so helpful, I think, to people who are considering going or who've already signed up to hear what it meant to people who have been in the past. It is hard to put into words because it's really that extraordinary. But I really appreciate you being here tonight and sharing, and your ongoing involvement with Friends of Kafika House and Kafika House. We need everybody. Thank you.